Section 10.5 is entitled Alternative Definitions of Operating Cash Flow, and it's pretty much exactly what the title describes. We go with a simple example, and in this example we have sales of $1,500 and costs of $700 and depreciation of $600. With those numbers, our EBIT would be sales minus costs minus depreciation, which would be $1,500 minus $700 minus $600, which gives us $200. And then we would adjust for taxes. So we've got EBIT times the tax rate would give us total taxes of 42. That's if the rate is 21%. Our operating cash flow then would be EBIT plus depreciation minus taxes. That's the definition that we've been using up to this point in the course. And if EBIT is 200, and if depreciation is 600, and if taxes are 42, then our operating cash flow would be 758. Now there are other ways to look at this. And one is the bottom-up approach. And I'll try to stay on the right page here, but I've got this zoomed in, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to make sure I'm on the page. So the bottom-up approach. What we have here is just showing that project net income, and kind of cross out project, it is project net income, but it make it a little bit easier to see. Net income is EBIT minus taxes. And EBIT's already considered depreciation, so EBIT minus taxes would be 200 minus 42 from the previous page equals 158. And now what is done from here to here may look is a little bit confusing, but essentially what they've done is they've said, well, if you were to add depreciation to this side of the equation and to this side of the equation, what you would have is EBIT minus taxes plus depreciation. Well, that's operating cash flow. So if we add it to this side, we have to add it to this side, which says project net income plus depreciation. And now they've kind of flipped the sides here, and they've said, well, project net income plus depreciation, well, that's now on the right-hand side. And operating cash flow is on the left. Well, that was the EBIT minus taxes plus depreciation. So all they're doing is showing that you could get to the same place as we have in our normal definition by taking net income plus depreciation. So net income was calculated as 158, depreciation from the previous page, 600. 158 plus 600 is 758, and that's the same number that we had on the previous page with our normal definition. Then we have the top-down approach. The top-down approach says, well, take your sales and your costs, subtract them, and subtract your taxes, and that should be the operating cash flow. Now, the taxes have already considered depreciation, but depreciation is not a cash flow itself, so we don't subtract depreciation to get to operating cash flow. So it's just what revenues do we have, that's the sales, what are our actual cash costs, and what are our taxes, and that gives us 1,500 minus 700 minus 42, all from the previous page, gives 758. Well, that's the same 758 as up here, and it's the same 758 as on our original calculation. Finally, we have the tax shield approach. And the tax shield approach is used to sort of figure out what the effect, or to acknowledge the effect of depreciation. That is, depreciation gives us a tax benefit. It's not a cash outflow, but it does, a cash inflow rather, or outflow for that matter, but it does give us a tax benefit because we get a deduction from it. So the first part of this says, let's look at sales minus costs and multiply that times 1 minus the tax rate. And without consideration of depreciation over here, if we just cover that up, then if there were no depreciation, if there were no depreciation tax deduction that gives us a tax benefit, then our operating cash flow would just be sales minus cost times 1 minus the tax rate. But there is depreciation, and the depreciation doesn't create a cash flow, but the tax benefit from depreciation creates a cash flow in the form of tax savings. That is, if we take depreciation and multiply it by the tax rate, that's how much in tax savings we have because we have a depreciation expense. So, operating cash flow is sales minus cost times 1 minus the tax rate plus the depreciation tax shield, which is depreciation times the tax rate. This is 1 minus the tax rate. This is the tax rate. So plug in the numbers. We've got 1,500 minus 700, and we're going to multiply that by 0.79, and that's 632. Then we have depreciation times the tax rate, not 1 minus, but times the tax rate of 0.21, and 600 times 0.21 is 126. When we add 632 and 126, we get 758. So our original method would give us 758, and the bottom-up method would give us 758, and the top-down method would give us 758, and the tax shield approach would give us 758. Note that this section also pulls numbers from a previous problem, the shark attractant project, and does calculations for that too. And it shows 51,780, 51,780, and I think somewhere over here it shows 51,780 on page 331 too. I don't see it right away though. The point being that it's just another example of how the three methods give you the same answer as our traditional method does. There is a definition over here for depreciation tax shield, and you would want to know that. And that's pretty much it. Let me mention that section 10.6 is a section that I typically cover. I've checked with the course coordinator though, and I'm pretty much the only person who does cover section 10.6. For those people who have used this text or who are using other texts, the topics in this section are, it turns out, not covered by other people. So I'm going to forego that, and we just won't cover that either in the lecture or on the exam.